Welcome to the official launch of Out of the Darkness on Audible. I'm really excited today to talk about this book, Out of the Darkness, that is now on Audible. It's also on Amazon and Kindle. I'm here today at Permanent Record Recording Studio in Austin, Texas. Why would I pick this studio to launch this? Well, because I recorded both of my books here for Audible. I found this place online just a few years ago, back in 2018. I called, I met such an incredible guy, Mike, and Grant is amazing too. But Mike was definitely the first person that I met, and he sat with me and he listened to me read my first book, Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. So we sat in the studio, and as I read, he just listened. He was this super calm, unemotional sort of guy who was just doing his job, and he ended up having to sit in a room with me for like 5 or 6 hours and just listen to me cry and scream as I read my first book. So it was through those hours of doing that, I sort of had this great relationship with not only him and Grant, of course, but also the studio. So when it was time to record Out of the Darkness, the first person I called was Permanent Record. So again, I recorded this book in this actual same room in this studio. And the thing that I thought was the most fun was when I came in, the first thing I saw was a box of tissues, because when I was recording my first book, all I did was cry. But anyway, enough about that. So I just want to say thank you so much to these guys, because they've been such a support for me, not only with my books and recording, but also with my healing journey as well. Just, meeting new people that welcome you in without any kind of issue, and they're not judgy, and they just accept you for who you are. I also want to say a big thank you to Sunny Day Publishing, who saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see when I started writing. So they were gracious enough to give me not only one, but 2 book deals. And I also have a couple more books coming out with them in the near future. So be on the lookout for The Wedding, my first fiction book, which will be releasing toward the summer of this year. So I'm super psyched about that. So why I'm here today is to talk about Out of the Darkness. Out of the Darkness is my second book that I wrote after Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. Out of the Darkness is sort of the follow-up continuation of what it's like living with a history and a past of being in an abusive relationship. The first book, I talk a lot about how we get in, why we stay, and how do we get out of something toxic and something abusive. It's something that more and more people are dealing with, both men and women. So it's not something that's just for one sort of gender, it's for both. There are lots of men that are in toxic, abusive relationships, and this book can help them as well. But after I wrote this one, I had to live. I went through recovery, I started my healing journey, and then I started writing again, because when I started dating after healing, after going through my recovery program, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. There was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm super healed and I'm like ready to go. And there's not going to be any issue because I'm like sort of reborn and fresh and super healthy. But then I started dating. And once you start dating, then you realize that the things you thought you had like sort of healed through, you really still have to continue working on. So as you've all heard a million times, like healing is a journey. It's not something you do for a certain amount of time and then you're all fixed up. As you start dating and as you get into your relationships, you realize there are more and more things that you have to continue healing from. But getting into that, you have to make sure that you're aware of that and be open-minded to that, where it's not easy a lot of times to begin your healing journey. So in Out of the Darkness, I wrote about my healing. I wrote about what that was like. I got into a recovery program. When I joined this recovery program, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I'm like, why would there be? Like, I'm completely perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's someone else's issue. And in reality, it's my own issue. So while in recovery and healing, I made all the classic mistakes. I dated too soon. I met the craziest people. I just didn't have the best time with it. And I, too, was one of those people that was like, it's everyone else, it's not me. But the further along my healing journey continued, the more I learned it was me. So I stopped dating for a little while. I started focusing a whole bunch more on my recovery. And then when I felt I was ready, well, let me back up. When my therapist felt like I was ready to start dating again, he encouraged me to do so. So I did. And it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't like the best experience. So in Out of the Darkness, I do talk a lot about the actual dates that I've been on and where I went wrong and the little relationships I tried to have with people and why they just didn't take off. But the thing that I think is the hottest thing to talk about when we're talking about toxic relationships is, again, that healing and what that actually looks like and how that healing feels. So I often compare, like, when people have out of toxic relationships, you have a choice. You can either stand in this line and talk about the person that was abusive to you, or you can try to put that behind you and start your healing journey. What I found was I'm sitting in this line waiting for people to come over and talk to me about healing, when in reality, all they really want to do is talk about the abuse that they've been through and the person that abused them and how their life is living after abuse versus healing. So, in a sense, I wrote this book so I could show people that yes, healing is difficult, but it's also worth it. Like once you get on the other side and you know how to date, you know what you want from your life, you know what you're going to put up with, what you're not going to put up with, it's much easier to be with the person that's a better fit for you. But that journey is tough. It's really hard to do, and I think a lot of women, let's just say, because I know men have been abused as well, physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, but because obviously I'm a woman, I kinda wanna talk a little bit about what that was like actually healing from that abuse. So, I did endure physical abuse, emotional, mental, financial, all of it. And what I tried to do with my healing journey was heal it all at once. I thought, I'm gonna do this all at the same time. And it's gonna be a one and done, and then I'm gonna be like good to go. Well, I did discover that wasn't the way any of this works. I realized I had to start healing one sort of thing at a time. And for me, I kind of started healing from the physical abuse when I really wasn't intending to. When I guess I kinda, like, accidentally started to heal from this. So I wasn't really sure how you do that. I thought, talk therapy was the way to do it, was getting out there and being with your friends and, kinda trying to live your life, but it wasn't until I was introduced to, oddly enough, and this is gonna sound, like, so, like, off the wall and, like, "What the heck are you talking about?" But, like, being introduced to jujitsu. Um, when I started my journey with that, I ended up, at one place, which wasn't really a great fit for me. So, because it wasn't a great fit for me, I waited a significant amount of time before I tried it again. But when I tried it again, when I really tried it again, when I got the guts to actually get out of the car that I was driving to the facility and walk through the doors, um, I had no idea how much my life would change. Absolutely none. I feel along our healing journey, we meet people that tend to pick up certain pieces and put them back for us. And they don't even know that they're doing it. So we might be, feeling a certain way about something and somebody says something nice and you don't realize that you're putting their pieces back. I experienced that with this place coming here and like having my interaction with the guys that are here, and they didn't know that they were helping to put my pieces back. They had no idea. So when I went to uh jujitsu, it was scary at first because I didn't know what was going to happen. Because after you've been physically abused, you don't really want to fight someone. You don't really want to do anything like that. But the place that I found, you don't do that. You learn your technique and you go through it, and it's slow and it's you know, um, at a pace where they actually want you to learn. So I began to feel safe. I began to feel like, okay, this is like a really comfortable place for me. It took me a couple times to kind of go in there and get to know the people a little bit. But once I did, I became comfortable and safe. And I think after someone's been in something abusive and something toxic, the one thing you want is safety. You wanna feel safe. You don't wanna feel like you're at risk or you're going to be harmed, and it takes a lot to rebuild that safety after you've been in something that nearly destroyed you. So when I was at this place and I began to feel safe, I started going more, and I started learning more, and I started laughing, and I started meeting people and talking to them and nobody knew anything about me or who I was or what I was. And I was accepted just from walking through the door, just from being who I was. So I went from having to try to please someone for such a long time, not only my toxic ex, but family and certain friends and different people, to finding a place where not only did I feel safe and secure, but I felt wanted, which was so nice. Wanted, seen, heard, all of it. And guess I didn't realize how much that was helping me to heal through the physical abuse that I went through um, until maybe a month or so ago, maybe even a little bit longer, when I had kind of worked through a lot of the classes that we have. And I remember one day I sat and I started thinking about my classes, and I started thinking about the physical abuse that I had to endure, or endured, I should say. Um, and I kind of closed my eyes and I went through every single piece of abuse that I was put through, every single one. And while I did that, what I did was apply all the things that I had learned in my class. And in my head, I was never hit. In my head, I was never hurt because I was able to walk through every single part of it. And at the end of going through all of this, I smiled. I didn't think I would smile after that. I thought I would be going down a road of memories that were going to bring up like the demons, but it didn't happen that way. I ended up feeling powerful and strong. And there was, and it didn't really matter like which form of abuse was happening, whether it was a choke or whether it was punches or whether, it was whatever. In every single scenario, I was able to defend myself. And that just made me feel whole. Like, I have this. I have this. I can live my life and I don't have to be afraid anymore, because no matter who it is, no matter who tries to do anything to me or who tries to get close to me in that way, will never be able to have that kind of access to me ever again. And that was the beginning of realizing 100% like I need to do this in increments. And because I was able to really heal that physical abuse aspect of it by finding such a strong, amazing support system, I am now able to get through the rest of it in a much different way. So along this journey, I met a lot of people who were helping to put the pieces back. And it's funny because they don't even know it. Like, they have no idea. Like, I'm sitting at my house and I'm putting my pieces back and they're at home eating dinner, having no clue what they just did. And it's such a great feeling to be able to do that. And it's just, the people that I've met have helped so much with that. So that was like the first sort of like, I can do this. I can heal from this and I can have a successful life and not be afraid anymore. Because even though your toxic relationship ends a decent amount of time ago, that doesn't mean you're not afraid anymore, because these things kind of stick with you. So it's finding something that's going to help you to heal through these things, really be in it and really heal through it. And that's what Out of the Darkness really is. It's, how do we do this? And is it possible? And then what does it look like after we start dating? Dating after a toxic relationship or something abusive isn't easy. It's scary. And until you do the work to begin to heal, regardless of how that looks, and I'm not saying you have to heal completely before somebody will love you, because obviously that's not true. But in order to find someone that's going to be of like your caliber of what you're actually looking for, you have to become that. And in order to become that, healing is the way to go. Because if we are in something toxic, if we're in something abusive and we don't heal, then we're just going to attract the same person over and over and over again. And that is not fun in any way, shape, or form. So the first step to getting out of something is really digging deep and healing from what you had been through. And it's not saying that you did it on purpose or that you wanted to be in something toxic or something abusive. A lot of times we find ourselves there, and it's difficult to get out. It is so hard to get out of something that you never really wanted to be in the first place, because it happens so like slow and over time that next thing you know, you wake up one morning and you're like, how did this even happen to me? There is a way out. There is a way to feel better about yourself, and there is a way to heal and then have a happy, successful life after something abusive. And dating isn't easy. It takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. And when you do it too soon, you meet the wrong people. But if you really work on yourself, if you really start to heal from the things and figure out what got you into something abusive and what got you into something toxic and what made you stay for so long, at that point, then you can start like unpacking it. And it's not something that can be done overnight. It takes a long time to heal from these things and to feel like you're in a place where it's time to start dating and you're ready to meet someone. It takes a little bit of time, but on your journey, you will, if you allow it, you will find people that will stop and pick up your pieces and put them back and they won't even know. So healing is definitely the first step to getting into a place where you're ready to date. And after you are ready to date, well, I guess that's when you call me at bebravecoaching.org because I can help you to date again after a toxic relationship because it's not easy. You're going to be confused. You're going to have trust issues. You're not going to really know who people are and you're going to maybe sabotage a lot of it because it's new territory and you're going to need someone to help guide you through. And it's not a bad thing to ask for help. It just isn't. It's okay to ask for help, to say, hey, I need help with this. And then you can get that help. And once you get that help, then your dating process will be much easier. Once you get through the dating and once you get into an actual relationship, then there's another level. So you've got to get out of the abusive relationship. You've got to start healing from it. Once you've healed enough, then you start dating. Once you get through the dating and you meet someone that you actually want to be with, then you will be having a whole different set of issues, which is what does that look like? And are you going to compare this person to your ex? If they say something that your ex said, is it going to trigger you? So there are a lot of different steps to this process of getting out and then getting to the point where you're healthy enough to get into a new relationship. So in my book, Out of the Darkness, I talk about my healing process, what it was like in my recovery. I literally open the book to my entire life and talk about what that was like, the good dates, the bad dates, that first healthy relationship that I got into after something toxic and something abusive and what that was like. Like the first, few months when you're so used to being love bombed, is this person legit? Is this person, are they going to do the same sort of things? But it's learning that patience. And you learn a lot of that from the recovery program that you can get into and make the next right move. You don't have to be shut down. You can be open. You can be willing to let someone in, but also listen to your gut. But that first relationship after something toxic and something abusive is amazing and it's great, but it's also a little bit scary. But listening to yourself and not really relying on your friends too much for advice because they may take you down the wrong road because they've seen you hurt and they've seen you damaged and they don't want the same thing for you again. So it's a whole process. But in Out of the Darkness, I wrote about that and what that was like with the first year of dating and the big issues that come across when you're trying to get to know someone and you're trying to see if they're the right fit for you. And how do you not overthink? I don't know. I wish there were a pill for that because that's so difficult. And I think that's something that comes with the territory of being abused and being with somebody who's gaslighting you and someone who's manipulating you for such a long time. It's hard to rebuild that trust. So it definitely matters your partner and whether or not they're willing to sit by you and be like, yeah, we got this. We have this. We can do this together. So a big part of it is also the person that you have next to you. So Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind, also on Audible, is how we got in, why we stayed, and how we get out. Out of the Darkness is how do we heal from this? What does dating look like after a toxic relationship? And then that first year of a relationship after something abusive ends and what it all feels like. So these are two books that I wrote about my own story, my own process, my own healing journey, which I'm still on, obviously, because I'm still learning so much. And going to my classes has given me a whole new life. It's shown me something that I didn't think was even possible that would be out there. And I'm so grateful for that school and the people who are there and the people who had no idea that they picked up pieces and put them back so I could feel like a whole human again. So check out Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind, and Out of the Darkness on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. Also, be on the lookout for my new podcast, Dating Effing Sucks, is the new one that's going to be releasing soon, the end of January. And for any more information that you want to have on any of my books or the coaching that I do, we are looking at bebravecoaching.org.